'Tis the season for self-care. Hey everyone, this is Sarah and I am back with a new video that is self-care oriented. It is the holiday season and for my mother's Christmas present, I'm actually making her a self-care bullet journal. And I'm going to be making it in this purple journal that I got off of Amazon. The journal is going to include all of the bullet journal basic pages, like yearly spread, monthly spread, mood trackers, things like that. But it's also going to have a lot of self-care pages in there, like medication tracker, pain journal, habit tracker, and it's also going to include reflection pages and grounding techniques and things like that. So basically in this video, you're going to see from start to finish me making this self-care starter bullet journal for my mom. And hopefully it can provide some inspiration for you too, of course, if you want to start a new self-care bullet journal for the new year. All right, so let's get started. First, I needed to plan out all the types of pages I was going to include in the journal. I made a list of all the types of pages I thought my mother would like or at least use, and then I mapped them out by labeling each page with a post-it note. If you watch my videos already, you know that I like to at least do a rough sketch in pencil for each page before I start using pens. This is the boring part, so let's move on to the good stuff. First, I made a key to put in the front of the journal. For those of you who are new to the idea of bullet journaling, a key is just a guide for a system of symbols used in the journal to categorize your tasks, events, appointments, and notes. Some people include all of these symbols, some people use different ones, some people set a color code in their key. It's totally customizable. After I finished the key, I just taped it into the beginning of the journal for an easy reference. Next, I created an index on the first page. This is basically the table of contents for your bullet journal. As I fill out the journal, I'll come back to the index to document where everything is. The index is really convenient, especially for finding calendars or ongoing lists quickly. I simply decorated the page and differentiated the header with a highlighter. My favorite brand of highlighter to use is Zebra Mild Liners. On the next two pages, I created a title page for decoration. I always think it's nice to open a journal with an inspirational quote, and I thought this one was really appropriate. I'm using some pink and purple Stabilo brand pens for this page. The next two pages probably took the longest out of any spread in this journal, and you will soon see why. This is the 2020 year at a glance. I made one box for each month that was 6x7. Some months that start at the end of the week needed a little extra room, which I just added later as needed. I wrote the month over the box, used the first row for the days of the week, and then I filled in the numbers, practicing my ultra-tiny writing skills. Under each month, I also wrote a space to record key events. Finally, I just highlighted the day of the week row in blue. Then, I simply repeated this process for each month. The next page was really simple. This is a New Year's resolutions page. I just wrote the title in cursive and then made a list with some stars as bullets. I don't know why I associate stars with the New Year's, also they're really hard to draw for some odd reason. Anyway, you could also create a similar page to set resolutions for the next decade if you wanted to. Next up is a birthday tracker, an alternative to Facebook reminding you of everyone's birthdays. For this, I just created a balloon for each month with a little bit of space to write names, and I made each balloon a different color. You could easily do this across two pages with bigger balloons if you have a lot of birthdays to remember. The next page is just a simple wish list that I pre-bulleted. I just added a little accent by going over the pen with a highlighter, although if you decorate this way, I'd suggest letting the pen dry a little bit longer than you think it should to avoid dragging the ink around. The next page is an expenses tracker. There are a lot of different ways to make an expenses tracker, so this is just one of them. There are 4 columns where you can write what the expense is, when it's due by, how much it is, and then a simple checkmark column to record once you've paid it. This page is simply a favorite quotes page. I made 5 boxes where she could write down some of her favorite quotes. I only made a few boxes just in case she wanted to write longer ones down. I like this spread as an inspirational page to look at when you need it. This next page is a list where she can record different hobbies that she wants to try. I know I'm definitely guilty of saying, I really want to try that, and then absolutely never thinking about it again just because I forget. Sometimes just the act of writing down what you want to do can motivate you. These next 2 pages might look a little bit familiar if you've seen my self-care video. The page on the left is just a space dedicated to writing down the ways you personally like to practice self-care. Self-care is totally different for everyone, from doing breathing exercises to eating healthy. This page is for that. The other page is a list of grounding techniques. I'm not totally sure what grounding techniques my mom likes to use the most, so I just copied the list that I have in my own bullet journal. I also included a spot at the bottom of the page where she can write down her favorite grounding exercise, just in case I missed the most important one for her. The next tracker is dedicated to medications, because if you have a chronic illness or a disability like my mom, or if you constantly are trying to find the right medication, it can get confusing. I split it up into 3 columns, one to record the drug name, one for the purpose, and one for the dosage. At the bottom I put a notes box where she can record any side effects she's having, whether certain meds need to be taken with food, etc. I also included a period tracker. I've actually never made one of these before. This one is a little tricky because I tried to design it so you could easily track flow and PMS symptoms. Basically, I made a space for 6 months, writing the months at the top and then the days along the side from top to bottom. However, I included 2 side-by-side boxes for each date. That way, one box can be used to track flow and one can be used to track symptoms, so you don't have to try to squish it into one. I also grayed out the boxes for days that didn't exist to avoid confusion. Along the side, I made a key. This is actually a key I found online, but I really liked it. This can be really useful for tracking your symptoms before, during, and after your period, so you know better what to expect the next month. The next page I titled Exercise, but I think that what I should have done was name it Physical Therapy Exercises, or something like that, because the intention of the page is to write down what exercises you're supposed to do at home and how often you're supposed to be doing them. My mom goes to physical therapy, so I thought this would be helpful to include for her. The next page is one of my favorite things, which is recipe ideas. Eating good, healthy food is so important, and part of doing that is finding new, fun ways to do it. This page can be an easy reference for the recipes that you want to try. Finally, we are moving on to the core part of the bullet journal, the monthly and weekly spreads. First, I'm making the monthly spread for January. I made the calendar using 5x5 boxes separated by 1 space. I just like the open look that creates. After I drew all of the boxes, I filled in the days of the week along the top as well as the number dates. I also made 3 boxes on the right-hand side for monthly goals, tasks, and notes. Then I drew a circle around each number on the calendar in blue for a little decoration. Next up is the monthly habit tracker. I just find it easier to fit it on the page sideways since you have to write all the numbered days of the month along the top. So I numbered across from 1 to 31, and then along the side I wrote down habits for my mom to track, like taking her medicine, going outside, checking the mail, and things like that. If a habit is followed for that day, she can just cross out the box under that date or color it in to show that she did it. Next, I'm making a mood tracker. I usually like to theme my mood trackers just because I think it's super cute. Because I'm short on time due to my procrastination, I had to use something a little more simple. So underneath the title, I wrote 1 through 31. I made it the shape that I did so that I could fit a color coding key on the side. The 6 moods I included are happy, productive, sad, irritable, tired, and relaxed. I didn't fill in the boxes with color because I decided it would be best for her to choose her own colors once she gets the journal. Then I made 1x6 boxes next to each date for her to color in each day based on the key. The next page is for daily gratitude. This one is pretty simple. I just wrote the dates down the side of the page below the title, giving her plenty of space to write a sentence each day. Next to that, I made a brain dump page, which is just an open space to write down anything you want, things on your mind, doodles, and so on. I went for a kind of like pow comic book kind of title in the middle of the page, and then everything else can just surround that. The design kind of just made me think of throwing things onto the page, which is exactly what a brain dump is. Now we are getting into the weekly pages. This is the first weekly spread of the journal. I just evenly spaced out some flags to write the dates on, trying to leave enough space to write tasks, events, notes, and so on for each day. It doesn't look like a lot of space, and it isn't. Some people like to include separate daily spreads after their weekly spread, and that's really good for super busy people. But I find a smaller space a way to avoid overloading yourself with tasks and expectations for the day. Also on this spread, I included a space for a weekly positive affirmation. I also included a weekly to-do box and a top 3 box. A top 3 box is a special space to write down the 3 best things that happened that week. Another weekly page I included was a meal planning page. Again, this is just a type of page that can be done a million different ways, but this is how I thought it would make the most sense for my mom. On the left-hand side of the page, I made spaces to write what is planned for breakfast, lunch, and dinner each day. On the right side, I created a little post-it note shopping list where she can write down everything she needs to make the meals that she planned, along with any other snacks or little things that she needs. The last weekly page I included is a pain journal. This is another page I saw online and I thought it could be super useful for her. Basically, it gives her a space to write down any pain or symptoms she's experiencing that day. It hopefully can also act as an easy reference when visiting doctors and specialists. Now that I had the unique pages out of the way, as well as the templates for my monthly and weekly pages, all I had to do was wash, rinse, and repeat. My goal was to fill up the journal for a few months worth of pages so that it was all ready to go for her. So for each month, I made calendars, habit trackers, mood trackers, gratitude pages, and brain dump pages. For each week of each month, I made weekly spreads, meal planning pages, and pain journals. All I did was copy them from January and then change the color scheme in the highlighters that I used. I also decided to include reflection pages at the end of each month, which is a good way to check in with yourself. So I'm very regretful right now because I started this journal for my mom like 3 days before Christmas, and I'm only halfway through, and it is 1:30 p.m. on Christmas Eve. So on Christmas Eve, I'm pretty sure I worked on this for 12 hours straight. While I do suggest making your pages ahead of time if you're a busy person, I probably wouldn't do it for 5 months out. But despite my procrastination, I set up her journal all the way through the month of May. What's up, guys? It is Christmas Day and I am at my grandmother's house, and I'm about to wrap up my mom's gift like really quickly before she gets here. Now it is time to show you guys the final flip through of this self-care bullet journal for 2020. Here we go. So with the rest of the journal, I did repeats of the monthly and weekly pages. I can show you that here. Oh, also at the end of each month, I put reflection pages with guided questions. I just found some of these online, and basically it's just like a little journaling exercise for the end of the month every month. So basically I just repeated all of the pages. Here's February with also a habit tracker and mood tracker, gratitude and brain dump, and then different weekly spreads, and then the meal planning page and pain journal for her. So yeah, I just changed up the color scheme for each month and repeated those pages: the monthly calendar, habit tracker, mood tracker, brain dump, gratitude, and then for each week I did a weekly spread with a meal planning page and a pain journal. That is all for today. I hope that this video inspires you to start a self-care oriented bullet journal in 2020. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Better yet, subscribe and let me know what you think down in the comments. Thank you again so much for watching. Happy holidays.